right, everybody, welcome to GreenCourt Connections. I'm your host, Jay Bland, Chief Growth Officer here at GreenCourt. So happy to bring you a very special guest, the State Court Clerk in Henry County, Georgia, Lynne Policaro.
There you go.
Nailed it. We got
Nailed
the
it.
name right.
You got it. You did it.
So you are a transplant, right? So originally
I am.
from Pennsylvania and now down here in the South. How's that transition been?
It's been a journey. It's hard being a northerner transplanted back in the early 90s into the South. First thing to get used to is the food, or the lack of food, because we don't eat fried food, we eat spaghetti and pasta. So that was the hardest part. And having a name like mine, having people try to pronounce it, was the second part. It was hard, but it's been a good transition, and I'm happy to be here.
Well, let's back up a little bit and talk about your journey. So I'm yet to meet a clerk of court yet who says their dream job as a kid was to be a clerk. So let's run through that. Let's run through your path to clerk and kind of dovetail into when you were a child. What was your dream job?
Well, I'm going to be your first because I was that child. So growing up, my father was our county sheriff. So I was always in politics growing up, and then later he became federal marshal. So I went from the little county level to the federal level really quick, or not quick, just as a transition. Growing up in that system, it was political, and I will never forget Judy Enslin was the clerk of court for Beaver County back then, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to run for office when Judy retired, and I wanted to be the clerk of court. Lo and behold, she's still there, and I still am in contact with her, and I'm not the clerk of court there, but ironically, I have become the clerk of court for Henry County State Court. So yes, this was my dream job. My plan B was to be a school teacher, but that never happened. So
Yeah, that seems to be a common theme. I think I've talked to a few people on here who had school teacher dreams, and that's really helping people, which is what you're doing today, right? I mean, you're helping people.
right, and that's what it is. You have to care about people. You have to care about the process, and just treat everybody fairly, and give everybody credit where credit's due, and hold people accountable.
So what was it like being a teenager in Pennsylvania whose dad was sheriff?
Horrible, to be honest. From a girl's point of view, so not only was my father the sheriff of our county, I have 4 brothers. So I'm the only girl. So I grew up the only girl with 4 brothers, big Italian family, and my father's the sheriff. So talking about a girl who never dated anybody until she was 17 years old, and then poor guy, it's a miracle I ever dated anybody. The whole family and extended family are sitting on the couch when he finally comes to the house. And he actually came back for a second time, so that was good. But you'll laugh at this one. The funny part is my dad, if somebody would come to visit me that he didn't like, he would actually clean his guns on the front porch. That is the honest to God truth. So it's like he sent a message non-verbally.
So, sheriff's daughter, preacher's daughter, I see some similarities there.
Yes, there's a lot. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, let's talk about, you mentioned somebody you looked up to when you were a kid, being the clerk of court there in Beaver County. I think we've all had mentors, all of us who are in leadership today. We've been impacted by people along the way. What are some of the mentors that you've come in contact over the last few years that have shaped you in your professional life?
The one that I can thank for being where I'm at is Ben Studdard. Judge Studdard was the chief judge that hired me. I worked with him a lot coming into this position in my other roles. Judge Studdard was one that I could take a question to. He would answer every question, and he sat me down one day and said, okay. And it was after, I had gone through some personal changes in my own life. I'd gotten divorced, and he's like, so what do you want to do with your life? Like, is this Lynne's end-all be-all? Because there's so much more to you than this. And he would constantly give me challenges along the way, and just let me know if I don't invest in myself, nobody else is going to invest in me. So I had to make myself marketable. And I credit him for where I'm at today. Just encouraging me to go back to school at the age of 40 to get my degree, take baby steps. So the first thing I wanted to do was, okay, I'll start out small, I'll get my paralegal certification, which I did. And then I joined the court administrators. I'm like, okay, let me just keep on going. A little bit more. Then I got my associate's degree in paralegal studies. And then I got my bachelor's degree in criminal justice and business. So he has formed me and brought that learning and that drive to light that I want more for my life than just where I'm at. I knew I liked the court system and I grew up in it, so it was just a perfect fit.
It's a great story. I mean, most of us can think of that one person who kind of maybe believed in us more than we believed in ourselves. And I think that's a powerful thing. It sounds like Judge Studdard was that person for you.
He was, and he was the one who actually swore me into office. He hired me, so it was funny when he called me to tell me I got the job, because I really wasn't even counting on it. I knew the prior clerk was retiring. I was invited to apply. I interviewed. I was very happy where I was. I was in Athens. I was happy as could be there. And I thought, why not? Give it a shot. That's what you always wanted to do. If you get it, great. If not, you're fine. And when he called, he says, guess what? You're not a bridesmaid anymore. I said, thank you.
Well, you went from court administration in Clark County to state court clerk in Henry County, which is appointed by the judges. So my question now is, what are some similarities and differences between the court administrator position and state court clerk?
Truthfully, I do a lot of the same jobs that I did in Athens here. I still have to go before the board of commissioners. I have to balance my budget. I have report to the judges. I do all the hiring for this office. We don't have a court administrator here in state court, and I am that person. I hire all the interpreters. I make sure that we have the disability, ADA accommodations. So things that the court administrator did in Athens prepared me for this role in that way, because I have all of those duties that normally a court administrator would do. So I kind of am quasi court administrator in some areas.
Well, when you talk about the role of court clerk, I went to law school, and I've said this before, they do not have a clerk of court class at law school, but they should, because all these lawyers come out of law school and they really have no idea what clerks do and what their responsibilities are. So my question for you, we have a lot of listeners who work in law firms or work in government agencies that interact with the court. So my question for you is, from a high level, what's the elevator pitch on what a clerk does? What is a clerk responsible for?
The clerk is the glue. You can't have court without the judge, without the prosecutor, but the clerk has the glue that keeps that all together, because they maintain the files. They have to maintain accurate records, make sure the motions are put on calendars, make sure if the change of venue needs to be had, we have to go through, make sure that the judges and witnesses and everybody's subpoenaed, everybody gets their notices on time. So without the clerk doing everything efficiently, none of that takes place. You could have everybody show up, but are the right people in the right seat, on the right bus at the right time? They are the ones that drive that bus and get everybody together. The courtroom, I equate it to a hockey team, because everything's so fast paced and everything's moving. The judge is like the referee. He's telling people where to go and what to do. But there's 6 players on a hockey team, and we all have to work together and share that information. And we have to communicate, because if you don't communicate with the sheriff's office, the prosecutor, probation officers, the defense attorneys, the court reporter, something will get lost. So we have to make sure that all those dots are connected. And if they're not connected, we have to find a way to connect them.
So rolling with that analogy, the hockey analogy, when there are fights amongst the court people, do y'all drop gloves and let each other fight, or do you break it up, or is it like hockey in that sense?
Oh, I love hockey in that sense, but that's what makes it good. That's when I go toe-to-toe, and I have gone toe-to-toe with our solicitor with difference of opinions on what should be done and shouldn't be done. Whose role is it to do it? One of the, we just had this situation Friday when there was a snow day. We had to cancel court for all 4 courtrooms Friday. Who's going to call the attorneys? Who's going to resend a reset notices? How do we let the attorneys, the defense counsel, the witnesses, the pro se defendants, how do we let everybody know efficiently that court's canceled and not to show up on when it's happened? We went through that at COVID. So in that instance, we were all on the same page. The solicitor's office handled all the attorneys. We handled the pro se defendants. They took care of the witnesses. We sent out all the notices and did reschedule everything. There's been times that we disagree with what the solicitor says. We agreed to disagree. And at the end of the day, it's like the referee. Whatever the judge tells us to do is what we do. Whether we like it or not, they have the final say-so.
So you mentioned solicitor. Really, when you look at superior courts that have prosecutors, your solicitor is pretty much a prosecutor for state courts, right?
Correct. The solicitor prosecutes for state court. The district attorney's office will prosecute for superior court. And the funny part is, like you mentioned, coming from Pennsylvania, I had no idea what a solicitor was. To me, it's somebody that goes knocking on your door selling stuff. So that was a whole new terminology for me. We didn't have solicitors. And I ended up starting out in the solicitor's office, which was ironic.
So when you think about clerks in general, and being a clerk in your county, what keeps you up at night? What are your biggest fears?
Oh my gosh. I worry about my girls. I really do, because they work hard. They work really hard at what they do. And their role is so much more detail oriented when people give them credit for. For example, in traffic court, if they don't take the disposition down correctly, if they don't report the disposition within 10 days to DDS, or they report it wrong, somebody's license could be suspended, which causes them to get pulled over for driving on suspended license. They can end up in jail with a car impounded because we transmitted wrong. And that is my biggest fear, that we make a mistake and somebody is wrongly sent to jail because of something we messed up on. And we're human, we're going to make mistakes. Same on the criminal side. We issue bench warrants, we recall the bench warrant, we send them to the jail, and we just hope we rely on the jail to recall that bench warrant, to process those bench warrants. And that's what keeps me up at night, is that the girls are the unsung heroes. Everybody makes mistakes, but mistakes that we make in the clerk's office could actually cost somebody their livelihood and their freedom. And that bothers me. I don't think people realize the in-depth, attention to detail that we must be. We have to be spot on all the time.
The stakes are high, right?
They are very high.
So you talk about reporting. Does your office have any responsibility or requirements in reporting information to GCIC here in Georgia?
We do. We have to report to GCIC within 30 days of a disposition on DUIs, any fingerprintable offense. We also have to report within 24 hours of anybody that's on the protective order registry. So on battery cases, assault cases, simple battery cases, we have to report that to the protective order registry. If there's a change in that order, we have to reflect that change. So there's a lot of reporting that we have to do. Criminal histories, protective order registry, and driver's license.
Are there any improvements you would like to see in that process, or is it pretty easy right now?
Right now it's easy because we have a system down. Everybody has to create their own system as to what works for them and the easiest way to do it. And again, it's going to be up to the states to give state courts that direct pathway that superior court clerks have. They go through the clerk's authority to process their protective order registry. So they have a second set of eyes, or an extra layer, who looks over their protective order registry. As a state court clerk, and there's only 10 of us out of 159 counties, we're on our own. And I think I may be one of the only state court clerks that actually do the reporting to that protective order registry. For most of them, that is a function of either the sheriff's office or it would be the superior court clerk.
So we had a previous guest on here, state court clerk in Cobb County, which was an elected position. And then you look at your county, same position, but it's appointed. What's
Correct.
The difference between, what makes it elected versus appointed?
Oh, Lord. Basically, the people appoint the person, and I'm appointed by the judges. I have 4 judges that I report to. So I have 4 judges I have to keep happy all at one time, versus she has to keep a community happy. And the community as a whole doesn't know what a clerk does. So it's very hard for them to really know her position. It's not like the sheriff. It's not like a judge, those positions that are elected. I think it's very difficult for an elected clerk to get the word out there so people know what a clerk does. And as we see, they just think, hey, willy-nilly, that's an easy job. File papers in, keep files together, and keep it moving. And there's a lot more to it than that. I'm very happy that I'm not elected. I'm not sure that this day and age I want to move into the political realm. But on the same token, I only have to make one judge really mad at any given point and I'm gone. So,
Yeah, most of us lawyers can relate to that. If we make the wrong judge really mad, we can lose our job as well. So
correct.
we can,
It's the same thing.
yeah, we can relate there. When you look at your time in Henry County State Court specifically, what has been your biggest challenge that comes to mind, and what did you learn from that challenge?
Oh gosh, my biggest challenge was coming into this job. I had no idea what I was walking into. Even though when I first started in Henry County back in 2004, I was a traffic clerk, so I took traffic payments. Then I went from traffic clerk to the solicitor's office where I was just a receptionist. I did pretrial intervention, and then I started the DUI court, and then that took me on my different career path. And then to end up back here, thinking I knew what a clerk does and knowing what a clerk does are two totally different things. And then I came into a position where my chief deputy, who had been here prior, I mean, I inherited that person. And trying to make that leadership team work with me when that part of that leadership team wanted my position and I had no idea that they wanted this position and they weren't chosen. And the hardest thing is getting leadership team all on the same page. Because everybody's right, it starts with the leadership. When I first came in, it was like oil and water, naturally. I mean, she's trying to teach me and help me do a job that they wanted. That makes it very difficult. Everybody, all your staff sees that. So just the biggest thing was getting an office of 29 people together on the same page at the same time and letting them know that the management part, their supervisors, that we're all in it together and we all want the same outcome. It's taken me about 3.5 years to get there, but I have the best office. And I'm going to tell you, I'll knock on wood and I'll put this in writing. I have the absolute best office anybody could ever ask for. A great leadership team. I have a great team of people, and it's awesome. It's amazing. Night and day from when I first walked in the door. That's been my biggest challenge, and learning the job and not having somebody to go to. Because the prior clerk retired and moved to Jekyll Island. She's wonderful, but the last thing she wants to do when she retires is answer all my questions. And I had a lot. So you rely on your other state court clerks to help you. And then it varies from county to county. Their job, we have the same basic function, but all the little things that you do vary from county to county and what your judges see you as a clerk doing. For instance, we issue bench warrants. If a judge calls for a bench warrant, it's a clerk's office that presents that bench warrant. Even though we are not attorneys, we file that bench warrant, we create the bench warrant, we send it to the judge for signature, and send it to the jail. We're the only ones that do that out of all the state courts. So it's different for every county and every state court judge, and 4 judges, 4 different courtrooms, 4 different personalities. They all do it different.
And you talk about bringing that leadership team together by finding a common theme that everyone can rally around. What were some of those common themes? Like what was the rally cry for the whole team when you say we can all get behind this mission? What was that mission?
To support the people, to support the workers, the ones who have their seat in the courtroom, to support the clerks from deputy clerk 1, 2, and 3, customer service, to get everybody know that they're appreciated and we value their work, and trying to let other people know, the solicitor's office and the judges, that they do work hard and they should be praised and they should be thanked for that. And that's what we did, is just show them that they're appreciated. And that was my big goal, is I appreciate you. Show me what you do, and if you can't do it, show me how to do it and I'll pitch in and I'll do it. I'm right on that same level with you. I'm not above you, I'm not beneath you. We all want the same thing, and for us all to get that outcome, you have to see me as, yes, I'm your clerk and I'm your supervisor, but I've sat in a courtroom in a clerk's desk and I've taken pleas and I've sat through jury trials, I've taken traffic payments. Just doing it all and show them they are not beneath me, that I will help them and work with them in any way they need to, and make them feel appreciated.
You mentioned customer service, and all of these successful leaders in court and government I've talked to, they all mention that. And I don't know if that means the ones that aren't successful ignore it, but there seems to be a common theme there on understanding that, your call to service means taking care of the constituents and people, if you're not elected, in your community. So do you put a great emphasis on customer service?
Huge, huge. We are the first people that they walk into this building and they see. We're on the bottom floor. So the first contact with somebody who's never had dealings with court or what we call our frequent flyers usually is the clerk's office. They come to us to get copies of dispositions, to get transcripts, to pay their citations. Nobody comes to state court because they want to, or hey, I just want to see how things go. They come because they got a traffic citation and are going to either go to jail or have to pay money or both. So you have to realize when people walk through the door, it's not because they want to, it's because they've been served with a summons, a traffic citation that's forcing them to come in here. So they're not happy. So we try to meet them there. And that's my big thing. I want their first experience not to be one where we have an attitude, hey, it's okay, you got a ticket, just give me your money. We try to walk them through it without giving legal advice, because that's that fine line you have to kind of watch, because they all want you to guide them through the process, but you can't. So you have to know where that fine line is and just let them know that, yep, you made a mistake and it's okay. Maybe you're guilty, maybe you're not, but we all make mistakes. So kill them with kindness. That's my whole motto. Just if somebody comes in and they're irate, most of the times they just want to yell. And if you're that person, let them get it out and then say, okay, now what do you want me to do? How can I help you? Until I know exactly what you want after your 10 minutes of ranting, let me know what can I do for you? So that's the big thing.
Yeah, meeting them where they are. I think acknowledging the fact that they're probably not happy. They're not in there shopping, right? They're not in there because they're curious about what you do. They're in there because they have to be, and they're
Right.
probably pleasantly surprised when they see the service you provide and the support you provide if they just give you a chance to do so.
Well, it is. And somebody delivered flowers one day just because we were so nice to them and helped them figure out what to do. And I looked at it, I'm like, oh my God, do I take them? Do I not take them? Are they going to blow up in my face? Because people don't do that. It's like, oh my God. But, that was just, they were so appreciative that we explained the process. And even when we call people in for jury duty, because we also have jury duty over here, we have 3 courtrooms going on at any one given time. We have up to 150 jurors up here at any given day during jury week. So I just don't call them in for jury duty. When I call them in, I explain the whole process to them, why they're here, what's going to happen when they get upstairs. They have to go through the voir dire process, the strike process, why the people that weren't sent upstairs for the voir dire, why they're down here. So I try to give them a better understanding of the whole process, because I've had jury duty where you just go sit in a room and wait for your number to be called. And that's not the takeaway that I want for them. And the funny part is, I actually had somebody who was looking for a job. She served as a juror, and I'm probably going to hire her in 2 weeks. So
Oh, that's awesome.
she's like, hey, I want to work for you guys. You're really sweet. I like what you do here. She wanted a tour of the office. I'm like, we'll give you a tour of the office. And she says, okay, no, here's my resume. And it was just such a she interviewed us before I interviewed her, which was really cool.
You talk about your reaction to getting flowers. It sounds a lot like when I give my wife flowers. She's like, "What did you do?
Exactly.
What
What
did
did
you
I do wrong?
do?" Well, you talked about some of your challenges, but if you look back on your career specifically there in Henry County so far, what's something you're most proud of?
I'm most proud of bringing this team together.
Mm.
I really am. The office is night and day different. So if I would take my most recent challenge, this is a huge accomplishment. I finally have got this office, like I said, after 3.5, almost 4 years, where I can actually take a day off and I don't have to sit here and call the office 5 times and say, what's going on? Do you need me? Or get 5 calls. We're all on the same page. They know how I think, they know what I'm going to ask. So my biggest accomplishment was this office. And prior to this position, I would say probably starting the accountability court in Henry County a long time ago. That was way back, oh gosh, I want to say 2015 maybe,
Yeah.
is one of the judges said, okay, here's your challenge. Here's your box. I went to no training. I went to nothing. This is what I wanted to do. And here, you make it happen. And I had a box of manuals and ideas from other courts, and that was it. And it's still going today, which that's my baby. I will always consider that my baby.
That's awesome. And you talk about accountability courts, which have grown a lot over this across the state in the last decade. Give us a little more information about that. What what lands somebody in an accountability court versus going through the normal state court processes?
We have different accountability courts here. What I started was a DUI drug court on the misdemeanor level. So if you've had 3 DUIs in 5 years, 2 and 5, 3 in a lifetime, you're eligible for a rehabilitative program. Evidently, what you're doing is not working.
Right.
So we give you intensive counseling, intensive supervision, therapy, in-house rehab if you need it. We give you all the tools to help you live a more sober life. We don't ask everybody to quit drinking. Not everybody's going to quit drinking. That's a pipe dream, especially for a true alcoholic. That is a daily choice they have to make, whether they want to take that next sip or not. But we give them the tools to do so. And we make them realize that their life decision to drink or not drink not only impacts their family, but the community as a whole. We have them go out and do community service and do sober events. And people do relapse. You can't, that's part of the addiction. We just hope that we give you the tools so if you do relapse, you can dig yourself back out again. We have a mental health court for those people that are trapped in the justice system. Excuse me, basically because they don't know better. They do know better, but maybe they act before they think. They have some kind of delayed development or autism. We have somebody with autism, somebody who is strung out on drugs so bad that now they have damaged their brain and their frontal lobe and their way of thinking. You have to give these people a chance in society, a chance to make them contribute back to the community instead of always relying on people to take care of them, make them more self-sufficient and to give back to the community. Accountability courts are huge. They have them over in Superior Court. They have them for veterans. Veterans probably is the hardest group to get into an accountability court because of their pride of being in an armed services and saying, hey, now I'm not an honor to my country anymore. I've fallen from grace. That's hard for them. So we give them all the tools and all the mentoring they need to get that honor back and to make them feel appreciated. And it's okay to make a mistake because we all make mistakes.
And different tools for different people. I mean,
Correct.
jail works for some people, but some people with mental health issues or addiction issues, jail's the worst place you can put them.
It is the worst place you can put them. Absolutely. Especially mental health issues because they're going to spend all their time in the mental health ward.
Right.
And, or the medical ward. And then they end up at the hospital. And then it just doesn't serve a purpose at that point.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you put drug addicts in prison. That's one of the easiest places to get drugs.
That's where they all get their drugs. And they will tell you that. They will actually tell you that.
Well, as you think about the day that you retire from public service, what do you want your legacy to be, both to the people inside of your office and the people who you served in the community?
That I did the very best I could. That I was me no matter what, from day one when I walked in, that I was the same person I was when I walked out, and that I left Henry County State Court in a better condition than where I found it. And hopefully that I brought awareness to our Board of Commissioners, to elected officials, to other lawyers. Because as you mentioned, the baby lawyers come in just graduating law school thinking they know the world, and they don't. And it's like, oh, excuse me. And we help guide them along. We do. There's a lot of baby lawyers. And that's what we call them, or our young lawyers. And some of them are really grateful. One of them brought us a dozen donuts at Christmas time because we helped get them on the right path. And the judges will send them downstairs. Go to the clerk's office, you'll find what you need down there. And then they come to us looking like a deer in the headlight. I just want my legacy to be a clerk's office is a welcoming place where we will help to the extent that we can help. And if we can't help you or we don't have the answers, we're going to find someone who can help you or give you the answers.
Amen. Well said. I mean, I've seen your career the last decade, really. I've known you for about 9 years, and I've seen you move into 3 different areas and conquer them all. So kudos to you, and thank you for your service. And I think last question here, we're both college football fans.
Yes.
You're a Penn State fan.
I am.
They didn't quite make it. I'm an Auburn fan. They weren't even close to making it. But my question is, Ohio State or Notre Dame in the championship game?
Ohio State.
I think so too. That's got to pain you to say.
And that hurts me to say that as a Penn State fan. But yes, I'm rooting for Ohio State.
Well, we'll see what happens. By the time this comes out, I think the result will be cemented in history. So everybody will know if we were right or wrong by then.
Well, I love a challenge. and so far, what I predict usually comes true. So
Well,
we'll bet lunch on it.
let's
But
let's
you're an Ohio State fan too, so there you go.
let's do let's do scores. So let's both predict the score.
It's going to be close, I think. I'm going to say 27-31.
Okay, 27-31 Ohio State. I've got Ohio State 24-17.
20. Okay.
We'll see.
Still close. We'll see. That's all we can do. We will see.
Lynn,
Penn State should be there, but
I agree.
That's in the past too.
I agree. Well, I appreciate your time very much. I enjoyed the conversation. Hope to see you soon.
Yes, and thank you. Appreciate it.